Alright, what's up everyone? So today we are working on our Ram 1500, and back in the day when we first bought this truck, what we did is that we bought a spacer for our strut to level the truck out, and it has worked pretty good. But if you guys know anything about that setup, usually it's a cheap way to go, but the problem is long run it usually destroys your factory or stock strut, and it's no bueno. So what we did, because what we're starting to do is starting to get a little squeak in the truck, which was super annoying. So what we did, got ourselves some good old rough country premium loaded strut. So all ready in the box, ready to bolt in, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, should go in just fine. So what it is, this one here is your 2-inch, and as far as I can see, it doesn't look like they do a 2.5. I was pretty sure with those spacers that was a 2.5 leveling, but we always have this thing loaded down in the back. Not a big deal. We do have airbags in the back, but either way, 2-inch is going to be enough. They say it's going to level it out. I believe them. So we're going to open this box up. All right, got our nice little knife here. Cut these open, and then coming right open. Nice. Oh, look at these things. That looks professional. Gosh dang. That's a nice unit right there. I think that's going to be just good. You know what's nice too? Is that we don't have to compress no coil springs today. Wow, that is super nice. You know what? And I was kicking myself in the butt too, guys. I'm like, why did I just go this route the first time? But you know what? Sometimes you're under a budget and you're still trying to look good, and that's what happens. So what we gotta do now is we gotta get this thing jacked up, wheels off, and get at it. All right guys, I'm gonna tell you already that these struts are pretty awesome. So here is our truck, and we did one side without you just so we kind of figure out what we're doing, get freshened up again. Sure, we're dead on the ground right there by the emblem. Yeah, we're gonna say right there at the 39 3/4 mark. And I mean, you could, and we're not on any jacks or anything like that. Same thing, all the way to the ground, up, and we are at about 39 1/4. That is, it's a pretty good difference, guys. So in our back end, you guys know the deal. If you own a Ram truck, it's got coil springs in the back too, and you know, a box of pillows will make this thing squat. So we have no air in our airbags right now, and we have a bunch of junk loaded in the back of this truck, so that's why she's squatting a little bit more in the rear. All right guys, now that I know what I'm doing, I'm going to show you how to take this thing apart, and we got all the torque specs for you, which was a challenge to get. All right guys, so if you don't have a if you don't have yourself an impact, make sure before you jack your vehicle up, get tire up in there, that you break these lug nuts loose. And even if you do have an impact, not a horrible thing for you to do regardless. But anyways, we got it up in there. We got our jack stand back there on the frame, so that's where we put it, right there. And now we're gonna bust this wheel off. I did tell you we're gonna take the wheel wells out, but it is definitely not necessary, and I prefer not to keep on pulling this thing in and out, and just get a little floppier every time. So leaving this in, you guys are going to see exactly what's going on. No big deal. Let's get the wheel off. All right guys, so this right here is for your tie rod. They recommend you remove this first. That will be a 21 mil socket, and it should, oh my gosh, hopefully that's spinning, because that's pretty dang loose. Oh my gosh. Well, I don't know what these torque specs are supposed to be, but well, that's not the greatest. Alright, so what we did is we took our little ratchet right here, take out some of the manual labor, and remember, whatever you put it on, it's going to be the opposite. So we actually have it on loosening. We're going to want this on tightening. It's going to be the opposite. It should be. Yeah. All right. And whoo. They might not all come out good like that, guys. So what you're going to do is just hit this with a hammer, and she should pop right out. So we're going to put our nut on there so we know where it goes. Boom. And they don't recommend it. Well, they don't tell you to, but I was reading through some other stuff, and they do tell you that you should take this off to relieve a little bit of pressure. And it's really easy, so we're going to do that next. Alright, we're going to see if we get away with the electric ratchet here. So you do that. You put this on here to keep it from spinning. I have to cheat it a little bit. Fantastic. So that's off. Just go in and, well, it ain't popped off yet, but it will. We'll keep an eye on that. So put this up here. Next thing we gotta do is remove our caliper. Oh, if I didn't say it, 16 mil socket, and that was a 15 mil wrench on this guy right here. So caliper time, and we gotta remove our ABS sensor and our wheel bearing. Alright guys, so we got our caliper off. Put it somewhere it can rest on. I know we're all guilty of maybe putting on the A-arm here, hoping it stays, and then you see it drop and just like bounce on your brake line hose. And that's no bueno. And really, I could probably have even a nice 5-gallon bucket or something like that. Usually does pretty good. Anyways, once you get that off, pull your rotor off. Try not to touch it too much and get a bunch of greasy hands on there. And if you're wondering, these are power stop brakes, and I do have a video on installing those. Alright. And there is going to be a little Allen guy right here, and you know what? A little PB blaster on the guy. It's not the worst thing. But then just stick your guy in here like that. Make sure it's good. Make sure there's no crud in there keeping you from getting your Allen in there all the way. Make sure it's in there tight, because you don't want to strip that guy out. And we're gonna break her loose. I don't know if I can do it holding the camera here, but we'll see. Oh, crisp. That's nice. So you're gonna get that all the way out. A little screw, you can see it has a little blue Loctite on there. Don't lose that screw, guys. Put it up there or we'll lose it. And then don't pull on that too much. So we got a little flathead screwdriver here, old Craftsman job, and we just get her in there a little bit. There we go. So she's under there a little bit, and we're just gonna work at it very lightly, just being delicate, because you don't want to break that sensor off in there. So I'm not gonna. Oh, there we go. You guys seen it? We did a little twist, popped right out. Beautifully, still intact. Good. Very dirty. Alright, so you're going to want to make sure you put this in somewhere it's going to be safe. You got a nice little tab right here. Alright guys, a little late, but we nailed the lighting. Got good lighting now. Alright, so that's out. You got this guy right here you're going to have to undo, which you just put your screwdriver right in there. Again, pop her loose. She's out. She's free. Put her over here by your caliper. Don't think about her till it's time to install again. So now we gotta take this off, which will and then we'll hit this probably with the hammer. This is probably gonna hold up a little bit, get hung up, and then we could do our shock or our strut here. Get that bolt undone down there. And then we'll be on to the top part. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Alright, we got our nut off, which came off super easy. Old ratchet style. 21 mil. But if you guys do struggle a little bit, it starts spinning, just put a wrench on here and a wrench on here, and that should be good enough. And I've seen guys where they'll put a crowbar on here to kind of apply pressure to your upper arm to try to kind of lock that in place a little bit more to get that to keep coming off. So use your own method, but yeah, for us it came off super easy. And this is probably the second time that this has been off. Once at about 30,000 miles, and now we're at 78,000. So old girl's getting up there. Alright guys, so what you're gonna want to do now is you're gonna hit this with the hammer, and we're gonna give her a couple whacks, and hopefully she comes down. So we'll see what happens. Watch your ears, it's gonna be a little loud. Woo! Alright. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was giving her a few whacks before. I'm like, this is taking forever. Like, we gotta have to cut out like 10 of these whacks. So I thought I had a couple more left. But yeah, it could take, you know, 2, 3. It could take 10 whacks. But try not to go too banana sandwich with your hammer, and just make sure more concentrate on making nice direct hits around this thing instead of wailing on it too hard. She's out. Let's get on to it. And now we got to remove our shock and or strut, whatever you want to call that girl, and we're gonna be done before we know it. All right, guys, we already sprayed old PB blaster on this guy. Let's get a better angle right here, and can't see that too well. All right, there we go. There's a nut, and we got just put a socket on this end. You can do an old crescent wrench. We're gonna do a socket this time. We got our trusty impact. We're gonna put it on the other side, zipper right off, and then we can move on to the next step. So if you don't have impact, don't worry about it, guys. You can do this job without one, but it does make the job way easier and is easier on your body in the long run. I used to be really against power tools, especially like little guys like this. Had a friend talk me into them and all that, and I'm not looking back. They are definitely good. Definitely if you do this stuff all the time. I mean, you're not only investing in making just the job easier on that time, but you're, you know, just for your body alone and all that. So definitely recommend purchasing some good. I like Milwaukee, but you can pick whatever you want. DeWalt makes good stuff too, but let's not get in that battle. All right, let's get at it. All right, guys, again, if you got an impact, if you could see that or not, golly, there's always a blind spot. All right, it's gonna be there too. Okay, so anyways, here's your shoulder to your bolt and all that, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it in reverse. We're gonna wheel her out just like that. There you go. So sometimes those guys can be a little tough to pull out. Instead of beating with the hammer, you can see our threads are still good, but you just put your old impact on there and she'll draw right out. So this guy's already ready to come out. Big tip, guys, I'm going to show you, but just to tell you right now, these up here are also 15 mil, and what we like using on those makes the job way easy. Got a little swivel 15 mil ratchet, and obviously you can do that with a socket or just a plain old wrench. No big deal, guys. What you're going to want to do is maybe just leave one of these in here on the last thread. So when you go to pivot this part out, let me make sure you guys can see. So when you go to pivot this part out, you have to push down on this whole assembly here. What happens is that you can only push this thing down so far. So you need these threads to be up in here to swivel that out first on the bottom. And I'm going to show you exactly what I mean when I do it. Because what happened to me on the other side is that these threads drop down past these holes, and then I could not pull it out on the bottom because I didn't have enough clearance. And then I had a heck of a time, just couldn't get the line back up. Finally got the holes back up and it slid right out. So just leave a nut barely on one of these threads here, because they ain't gonna matter. You're not gonna use them again anyways, or the nuts, even if you tweak them up a little bit, which just be gentle and you won't. And that's gonna let you swivel that nut off, and when you're ready, you know, to get at her and swivel her right out, and it'll be no problem. So we're gonna get at it. So we got our strut, and we're gonna push down like that. We're gonna remove our top nut, so then we can push. And she's out. No problem. actually putting the new one in is even easier. But you can see how I had to really kind of push down on that a little bit. And I did end up taking that all the way off. So as soon as I started pushing down, just testing what things were going to do, it actually popped up everything up a little bit, so it was really easy to take off. Alright guys, so make sure you take your nuts off the top of your strut, and there is a certain way it goes. You're going to have the two in the back like that, and then the one in the front, and just kind of slide her in. You're kind of just going to do the opposite what you did taking the one out. So kind of find your holes. There she is. Alright, let's push her arm down, lean on her. She's in, and since you're still holding her like that, grab your 3 nuts, 2 out of 3 ain't bad, and swivel them on there a little bit just to hold it up there. Not that she's going to go anywhere. This was a 15 mil. It is recommending, I believe, 32 foot-pounds of torque. Now, our issue was we couldn't get our, because of the style of torque wrench we have, which we'll probably be upgrading here soon, we weren't able to get in there very well because you do need a deep socket. Our shallow socket wasn't quite grabbing enough. So we went with the good old snug it up, Guten tight. So we got these all tightened up. One thing I can recommend is tighten one up a little bit at a time, kind of like you would a wheel, but obviously there won't be much pattern. Just kind of go around, keep tightening till each of them are tight, and you can't really snug them up anymore by hand. I go by just a good old standard wrench, no extensions, anything like that, and I go for a nice good snug with this, and that's what I call good. And I ran my bolt through here on the bottom before I snugged everything up, so it's nice and loose, so I can kind of run it through a little bit easier. Still have to push down a little bit to get your bolt through. Don't try forcing that with a hammer too much, or you'll probably gouge up your threads a little bit. Next step will be pulling this puppy down right here, so we get her lined up, and it's pretty easy. And we'll push that down while we thread a nut up on her, and then tighten her up and get her to what they recommend is, let me see, I wrote it down. Here we go. Upper ball joint, 40 foot-pounds plus 90 degrees. So how I take that is, I'll tighten this thing to 40 foot-pounds of torque on my torque wrench, and then I'll take my torque wrench and put it right here, and I'll literally swivel it 90 degrees. That's how I take that information. Am I right? I hope so. But either way, that's what we did, and I have full faith because all this stuff came off pretty easy, guys. It wasn't really hard, so you're not really putting a lot on it as far as that. So we're gonna go with that. That doesn't sound too shabby, and then we'll move on to the next part. So same thing right here. Take our good old 10 mil guy. We are tightening now. So we're in reverse, we got in counterclockwise, loosen mode, and then we're just gonna put old crescent guy on here, just like that, and put that on there. And now, I believe, yep, she'll tighten just fine without spinning. So we're gonna get that to our old trusty, right, I'll show you guys. GoPro's about to die. Alright. So that is a 21 mil, if you guys don't remember. This is the type of torque wrench we have, just good old dial style. Dial style. Put that thing on. So this is why, like, obviously it's super awkward. I gotta look upside down while I do this. We're getting close. It's about 45 pounds. So we're gonna go right out here, and then we're gonna swivel it 90 degrees. And we're gonna call that good. The best part about this, guys, is that you don't have to stress too much about this. Drive it down the road. You don't have to go the full 500 miles. Drive it a little bit, go back and just check everything. It's not a big deal, and that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna probably check it 2 or 3 times this month. Just go over it real quick, double check, make sure everything's still at least attached. All right. Bolt down here for your lower shock mount. There it is, all tighten up. That's at 120 foot-pounds of torque. We also got our tie rod mounted in, and this one here is 45 foot-pounds of torque. And then we also did this guy here, and this one here is just I didn't see any torque specs really for it, and a lot of guys just said snug it up, don't squish them too much, and kind of use your best judgment on that. All right, so you got your sensor. Make sure you have it go the same way it was. So we're gonna go right through here, make sure it goes through your dustpan, and then we're just gonna push her in, guys. So should go in nice and easy. Boom, solid fit. And then you're gonna grab that screw that you kept track of with your Allen set. And as far as this, also no torque specs, just be nice and honest with her. Screw her in and then just give her a little snug at the end. Barely anything. You don't want to break that off in there. Be, again, no bueno. Little, nothing crazy. That's good for me. And then put your caliper on with your rotor. Put your wheel back on, and we're back in business, guys. So, oh, don't forget your clip here, which we gotta get her. All right, get back over here. So now, there we go. Clipped in, and let's finish her up, guys. All right, everyone, we got the truck all buttoned up, and she's looking pretty good. She's sitting level at right now at, what was it, like 38 3/4 we said. What I forgot about is that whenever you do something like this, the best thing you gotta do is go run the truck down the road and have it work in a little bit, and then come back and remeasure it, because chances it's probably just got to settle a little bit, because right now they're fully sprung out, but once they compress a few times, they should work their way a little bit more even. At least that's what I'm hoping, because as of right now, she definitely sits higher in the front. I went back and I bumped some pressure in our bags, and that's just how she sits. And I definitely don't want my truck sitting lower in the back. That is definitely not my style. So we might have to do something about that. But other than that, guys, really good lift it looks like. I'll be doing a separate video on comparing the ride between the preloaded, lifted struts versus just using, like, your spacers and all that, because the truck did ride pretty rough with the spacers. So other than that, everything came out pretty good. Make sure after you do this, you're going to need alignment. Looks like we might even need alignment just because we're sitting a little bit higher, but we're going to see what happens. All right, everyone, that's it today for the Ram. I hope this video helped you out. Make sure you check your bolts after running your truck just a little bit. But besides that, we'll see you later.